Hey, all right. Hey, everyone. I'm Pete Rulo.
And I'm Heidi Erickson.
Well, it's finally here. Halloween's coming up at the end of the week on Sunday.
Love it. That's wonderful.
So
To be, it's always Halloween on T's Weird Week, though.
that's true.
Yeah, we live in Halloween Town. We actually do live in Halloween Town. Milwaukee is totally Halloween Town.
It's so if people don't know, I lead walking ghost tours for American Ghost Walks. We've got 3 tours in Milwaukee right now. There's one in the Third Ward. There's one on Brady Street, and there's one that's called the Shadow of City Hall, and that one's in the City Hall area, obvious. But there are so many times when I do this tour, and after the tour, someone, a person, or a couple, or a whole group of people, they will tell me all about a house that they used to live in or that they currently live in that they are pretty sure is haunted. And it's very, very common for people to tell me ghost stories about their own homes after these tours.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is a lot. A lot of people are experiencing some sort of haunting.
Yeah.
So I really believe that Milwaukee, I know that Chicago is also very rich in ghost stories, but
Yeah.
I think there is quite a significant amount of ghosts in
No.
Milwaukee.
Yeah, like I've lived a lot of places, T. Like we've talked about Scotland and like South Carolina and like a lot of places you would traditionally think of as like ghostly places. But Milwaukee is pretty fucking haunted. That's like you can't hardly throw a rock around here, not hit somebody that doesn't have a spook in their basement or something. You know what I mean? And I think it's pretty common out in the country too. Like Wisconsin in general
Yeah.
is pretty scary. It's all that cheese. People get bound up and then they die, and like
Yeah.
they just can't let it go. But recently, actually, a couple of people have reached out to me personally. I don't know if we talked about this yet. Like a half a dozen people in the last 2 months have reached out to me because apparently I am someone who like knows what you're supposed to do. I'm like the Roto-Rooter guy. They're like, I
Oh,
gotta go.
sure.
I'm for real. They're like, I got a ghost. Heidi, what am I supposed to do about it? And I'm like, what kind of ghost is it? Give me its approximate dimensions. Do you have the manual? Let's see what's going on. But we were talking earlier today with Hillary Higgins, who wrote a really amazing book called The Bank Doesn't Care If Your House is Haunted, which is a story about a house that she and her husband lived in with her mother, as her mother was having hospice care, um, and it was super haunted and some super crazy shit happened there. And she then moved to Pittsburgh, where she moved into another super fucking haunted place where really haunted things happened. And now she is moving to Milwaukee, back to Milwaukee. They're looking to purchase a house here. And I thought, gee whiz, that's too bad, Hillary, because like every single one of these houses is haunted. Like all of them are like, okay, you know a lot, T. What would
Mhm.
you say if you were trying to avoid buying a haunted house in Milwaukee? What neighborhoods would you recommend you maybe stay away from around here?
Wow, that is really hard because I mean, like if you go to the Third Ward, a lot of those are condos, but they're condos that are built in buildings that are quite old a lot of
Right.
times.
Yeah.
And all the neighborhoods I can think of, there's so many old houses.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, you'd have to like move into some ugly, overpriced new house that maybe doesn't have
Dude,
a history.
dude, wouldn't
Is
that
your
be
best bet.
bullshit if you moved into some like prefabricated house that had no character whatsoever and like
It was full of
it,
ghosts.
it was full of ghosts? You'd be like, God damn it. Like I could have had a window seat and leaded glass windows. Oh no. Oh, I think the most haunted place in the Paper Valley, because I lived in Appleton for a number of years, was actually this complex that was these beautiful apartments, just gorgeous, beautiful apartments that had been built into what was formerly an old mill, like an old paper mill. So like nobody lived in the paper mill before that, but that place was haunted as balls because it was a big industrial plant. Like surely people died there. Like once upon a time, the rules about like there was no OSHA. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
people would just get
Yeah.
their hair sucked right into machinery all the time. Like that should
Right.
happen.
Yeah.
Also, allegedly, because of all the, I forget sometimes that this place was just like all of Wisconsin was just lousy with mafioso because they would
Yeah.
come up from Chicago and be like, nobody's going to look for us. Like, no one's going
In
to
the
look for us in
woods. Yeah.
Wisconsin. Yeah, right. You know what I mean? So, like, there's all these stories of like bootlegging and like secret tunnels and all this kind of stuff. But also that like a lot of these like mobsters that disappeared, they didn't drop him in some dumpster in Chicago. They brought him to fucking Oconomo Walk or something, right? And like fed him to the pigs or what have you. So like you never know with places around here. You never absolutely know. And like we're talking about it too about like the title of her book is The Bank Doesn't Care If Your House is Haunted. But there are places like I know in New Orleans, they have to legally, they have to tell you if a place that you're buying or a place that you're renting has ever been reported to be haunted by anyone. They have to disclose it because if you move into a place and then later it turns out to be haunted, all you have to do is find one person who was like, yeah, I told those guys that place was haunted 15 years ago, and boom, like you're off the hook because they legally they have to disclose it to you. But apparently that's not a thing in Wisconsin, which I think is bogus because we could use it. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
We could use it.
Yeah. Like you're saying, it was the Wisconsin woods where a lot of gangsters, famous gangsters,
Right.
hid out. Al Capone, John Dillinger and his gang had a famous shootout with the FBI at
Right.
the Little Bohemia Lodge up north,
Right.
and
Yeah.
it was actually quite embarrassing for the FBI because they were firing round after round after round at this building, and meanwhile Dillinger and his gang had already escaped out the back door and were long gone
Ah,
by the time that they figured out, hey, they're not shooting back. Oh, they're
classic.
gonna. But
Classic.
yeah, Al Capone had a very lavish cabin in I forget the name of the
Right.
city, but up in the woods where he could cool his heels when he was in trouble. You know,
Yeah.
so a
Yeah.
lot of gangsters rolling over the border into Wisconsin,
Right.
and yeah, there's so many. This is violent history, and a lot of ghosts were made
Yeah.
during that period.
Yeah, a lot of ghosts were made. That's a very polite way of putting it. They made some ghosts. They didn't
Yeah.
kill people. They just made some ghosts.
I think my theory is if you're looking for a haunted place to live, the area near the Eagles ballroom slash rave,
Hmm.
that area seems to kind of have this spooky legacy where the rave Eagles ballroom is a big venue here if you're not from Milwaukee. And there's lots of reports of ghost stories from inside of that place. A lot of touring bands
Sure.
have experienced ghosts. Also, close by to it is the Brumder Mansion, which
Mhm.
is now a bed and breakfast, but that place is supposed to be notoriously haunted. There's
Right.
been quite a few paranormal investigations that have gone on there. And of course, the place, that area also has sort of a stigma because that's where Jeffrey Dahmer lived,
Right.
and you know, he lived just a couple blocks away from the Eagles Ballroom.
Right. Right.
So
So there was, I mean, definitely a refrigerator full of heads.
yeah,
That's gotta be bad for the resale value for sure. For sure.
yeah, and
Yeah.
there also he killed someone. This is funny because I don't hear ghost stories about this place, but the Ambassador Hotel is pretty much right across the street from the Eagles Ballroom, and Jeffrey Dahmer. One of his first murders was he killed someone in a hotel room in
Oh.
the Ambassador Hotel, and then he shoved their body into a duffel bag, and he just checked out and walked out the front door with a dead body in a duffel bag.
That's how
But
you get away with shit, though, T. You just got to pretend like this is totally normal.
totally
And
normal. Just
it's the
checking
latter
out with my
theory.
very heavy duffel
My
bag.
very heavy, very lumpy duffel bag. No big deal. But there's no reports that the ambassador is haunted. We should do.
I haven't heard any ghost stories about that place,
We
but
should go
I would
talk to
think,
we should go talk
yeah,
to the people who work there. There's got to be some spooks because
yeah,
the Ambassador Hotel's pretty old too.
yeah,
I think hotels, as a general rule, tend to collect ghosts because whack ass shit like that happens because it's a hotel. Like, you know what I mean?
yeah, and
I don't
it's a
know.
really old style of hotel, so it looks a
Mhm.
little bit like The Shining or something. So,
Right, right. Well,
mhm.
yeah. Well, plus anyway, all of Milwaukee has to be haunted because of the bricks. Remember the
Oh, the
brick?
Cream City bricks?
Yeah. Do you not know about the bricks?
No.
Oh, this is one of my favorite stories too. Okay, so I live in Bayview. Don't like it's great. I love it. Uh the entryway to Bayview is like the corner of Kinnickinnick Avenue and Lincoln Avenue.
Hmm.
Um right there on that corner there's like a big restaurant and like it's the street that leads uh out to the lake, and then KK is the street that becomes First and National. It's like it's the main thoroughfare through most of Milwaukee is KK and First. That area right there used to be outside of town. Bayview is not the old area of town. Bayview like got glommed onto Milwaukee when a bunch of Italian immigrants started moving here because Bayview used to be the Italian neighborhood. The oldest part of Milwaukee is like down in the ward, I think, is the oldest part of Milwaukee.
Yeah.
When Milwaukee was just a tiny little speck of a place, the area that is now Bayview is where the town cemetery was because it was downwind of the rest of town, you know, and it was far enough away that like rats and disease and the things that you like the nasty parts of corpses, the things you associate that with that you wouldn't have to worry about. It's also the floodplain for the lake, or it used to be. So when the lake would flood, it would deposit all this clay silt over that area. So that ground is also it's clay. It's clay. So it was the boneyard for years. It was the boneyard for years and years and years. As the city got bigger, they realized that all that ground there was clay and it would make really great bricks. So they moved the cemetery
Uh-huh.
and built the brickyard there. Now, of course, the brickyard was there for years and years and years. All the Cream City brick comes from that what used to be. There's actually still a brickyard on one side of Bayview, but all the Cream City brick came from that area, came from that place. When they started digging up what would eventually become KK there to put in drainage and stuff, of course, they found skeletons and busted coffins because there would have been no way for them to know even where all those bodies were. It's not like somebody had a fucking spreadsheet in the back keeping track of where all the bodies were. There was bodies there still. So when you look at Cream City brick, which is in the foundation of every major building in the city of Milwaukee that was built after the like 18 whatever, uh, a lot of those bricks have people in them. There's people in those bricks. So
Yeah.
Milwaukee as a city is built out of corpses.
Nice.
And when you build stuff out of corpses, sometimes it's gonna like, I don't know, get a little haunted
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. Huh.
So
Wow. I did not know that about the Cream City bricks.
isn't that great?
Hmm.
It's one of my all-time favorite stories. I actually used to work up on that corner as why, and there's a bunch of places where buildings have like sunk in because the ground there is really soft
Yeah.
and whatever.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the buildings in that area, and I'm sure in the rest of Milwaukee, uh, they got built on top of themselves, you know? And there's rooms off of the sides of basements that you don't even know are there because it flooded one time and instead of trying to fix it, they just walled it up and built something else on top of it, right? Which is
Hmm.
extra scary because once again, that whole area was a cemetery. So there's all these secret rooms that just don't connect to anything that are sitting underground in the ground that used to be the cemetery.
A swampy cemetery. Yeah.
Swampy. Swampy. Everybody loves a swampy cemetery. That's the best kind. You get the bats in there and stuff. Very aesthetic, very atmospheric.
Hmm.
Mm,
Okay, so I wanted to ask you about this. We got some tickets. What happens is movies have, a publicity department, and they're like, we got this movie, it's coming out in a week. We need to hype this up. And they look for groups that fit into the niche of the movie sometimes, right?
yeah.
So once in a while, because I direct the Milwaukee Paranormal Conference, I'll get an offer in the inbox that's like, hey, you want to participate in promoting this movie? We'll give you a bunch of free tickets and you blast it out on social media. And then your people are going to go and they're going to get hyped on this movie and help it get good word of mouth or whatever.
Sure.
So there's been a couple times where I've been like, yeah, I think one of the Conjuring movies we had some free tickets to. Sometimes I ignore them because the movies are totally lame. I'm like, nah, no thanks. I don't even want to help you promote your movie.
Yeah.
But we got some for Guillermo del Toro's new movie, Antlers. The screening was on Monday, and a few people from the Tease Weird Week Facebook group went. I think that I saw a couple of people commenting that they liked the movie. However, I don't think were very impressed. Is that true?
I was. Okay. Let's preface this by saying that I am a horror fan. That is like an understatement. I like horror movies very, very much. And if you're a horror fan, it's not unlike being a Brewers fan. Being a horror fan is like being a Brewers fan. Like you're gonna go, you're gonna have a good time. Are you expecting a big win? Well, it depends on what point in the season you're at, I guess. No, not really. But if you get one, you're like, all right, that's what I'm talking about. That's baseball. So generally speaking, with horror movies, I have very low expectations. I just want it to be like a little bit clever. It's cool if there's some like underlying interesting message or like really good character development, or even if just the monster is really dope. Like sometimes a good monster is enough to make it, like for sure. There's some really good horror movies that are really bad films, but they're good horror movies, you know?
Mm-hmm.
There's also some really good horror movies that are really good films. You never know what you're going to get. I was really excited to see this film. It was supposed to come out last year, and it didn't because of COVID. So I'd already been waiting for it to come out for a year because I'm also a huge Guillermo del Toro fan. Because the aesthetics of his movies are beautiful, and
Yeah.
because he has a really good job of handling myth and archetype and like making this kind of creepy, magical kind of feeling to it. I'm sure everybody's seen Pan's Labyrinth. Like, he did Shape of Water, which a lot of people actually hated. I loved that movie. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Um, I think he's like Tim Burton for people who don't just shop at the mall. So I was way into it. I also knew that it was folk horror, which I love. I love folk horror. Um, like probably one of my favorite horror movies for the last couple of years has been the movie The Ritual, which is actually a Netflix joint, which is Nordic noir and folk horror. Excellent, amazing. I like the idea because our myths didn't used to be cute and fluffy. They weren't Disney stuff. Most of our myths were morality stories, and a lot of them were kind of dark. And I knew this movie was going to be about the Wendigo. Like it was pretty clear from the trailers that that was what was going to happen. Um, the Wendigo, as we have discussed before, is like a DNA myth. It's a Navajo myth. Um, and I was like, okay, Guillermo del Toro knows how to handle myths. This looks beautifully shot in like Oregon. Like they had the opportunity to make like the like dark, foggy, deep, like Pacific Northwest, like the whole atmosphere of it into a total character. The director, because Guillermo del Toro didn't actually direct it, he produced it. The
Oh, I
director
see.
is someone who apparently is very famous for like very interesting like dialogue and character development. I was like, okay, this could be something really extraordinary. At the very least, it's going to be pretty. I'm very into seeing this movie. I didn't hate it. I'd like to be clear. If I had just been watching a horror movie and it was just a horror movie, I would have been like, that was an okay horror movie. Like, I wouldn't have been mad. I'd have been mad if I'd have paid full price to the ticket. I gotta be honest, because it wasn't even a super great horror movie. Um, I thought that the dialogue was pretty flat. Um, Most of this movie is driven by the idea, spoilers, you guys, driven by the idea that there was this little kid whose dad like was a guy who made and sold meth and his mom had passed away, and then this woman who was the main character was a teacher, had suffered some terrible abuse when she was a child, and they were supposed to be connecting with each other over this trauma, but they had no chemistry with each other, and they spent hardly any time on screen together, so that didn't really work. um, it felt like there was some big hole. It felt like the movie was probably supposed to be 2 hours longer than it was, and big chunks of the story got taken out and like ended up on the editing room floor, which was upsetting. Um, Probably the biggest issue I had with it was that it was this indigenous myth, and we're in the year of our Lord 20 and 21, and I thought they would have handled that with a little bit more nuance and grace. They didn't. There was no exposition. They didn't because the story of the Wendigo, the actual story of the Wendigo, is a morality tale. They mention it in the movie. One of the versions of the story is a hunter goes out hunting with his hunting pals or whatever in the winter. They get stuck in the blizzard. They get hungry. They get desperate. The one guy eats the other guys, and he turns into the Wendigo. And the Wendigo is always hungry, and his hunger is never satisfied. That's a fucking scary story. If
Yeah.
they had shown that story, that would have been cool. I'd have been super into it. But there were parts in the movie where they indicated that there was more story, and then they never told the story. Like, it just never happened. There was one indigenous person in the entire movie. It was, I forget the name of the air of the guy. he's played the Indian in every movie since like 1984. He
Yeah.
was on screen for 4 minutes, like doing boilerplate mystical Indian, and like
Yeah.
that's it. There was no other indigenous people anywhere in the film. Like, they were ghosts that didn't exist. Like, they didn't show the reservation. It would have been really cool if all the stuff that happened in the movie had happened, and like the main characters had like gone to the res and like talked to the people there, and the people there had been like, oh yeah, you fucked up. You know what I mean? Or like, oh yeah, because this thing happened like 30 years ago. We told you guys like not to do that, because there was so many opportunities for that to happen, because the woman was coming back to this town after having been gone for years because she was running away from this abuse or whatever. She could have come back. It could have been a whole like metaphor about small town America and like shit falling apart. There was nothing. There was like occasionally somebody mentioned something about the environment. There was a little blurb at the beginning of the movie, but then they never talked about the environment again. um there was this whole thing about like opiate addiction in like small towns and whatever, which was a weird thing for them to mention in reference to an indigenous myth and then not mention, because that's a huge indigenous issue, is like opiate addiction and like the struggles that come with that and poverty and opiate. Like, they didn't do that at all. At the end, it felt kind of like they were talking about, it was a metaphor for how trauma gets passed down to people, but even that was really clumsy. Like, it just, the monster looked cool.
Yeah.
That was, the monster was cool. Like, if you're into at all the aesthetic of like the internet version of the Wendigo, you will think the monster is super dope because it looks like it just jumped right out of your nightmares on the internet. Um, but you only see it for like 5 minutes at the very end of the movie in the dark. Like,
Mm.
there's like 2 jump scares. Like, it
Your expectations were not met with this film.
they were not met. And there were some people who liked it, and I mean, there were things about it that were fun. And like I said, if you went into it with zero expectations, you probably would have been like, that was an okay horror movie. But mostly I thought it was just really sad and depressing. And dude, they just could have done so much with that. They could have done so much with that. Also, not a Guillermo del Toro movie. So if you're looking for a Guillermo del Toro movie and that's what you're into, I was. Nope. Guillermo del Toro was next door at Five Guys having a cheeseburger. That's
Sure.
that is as involved as he was, I guarantee you. What
Hmm.
happened, as I said, was that there was a film's like executive, like a studio executive, who just walked into a room one day in a pair of $700 shoes and was like, "Hey, you guys ever hear the Wendigo? It's so hot right now, so hot. What are we doing with that? We're doing something with the Wendigo. Isn't
Hmm.
isn't isn't Jerry Del Toro? Isn't he still on contract? You should call that guy. This is going to be the easiest $15 million we ever spent. Like it wasn't. They didn't put
and
any love into it.
and then they were like, "Oh, this is based on a native legend. Let's find
Yeah,
a native actor, get him in the movie for
one.
4 minutes. He's gonna say,
Yeah,
by the way, this is based on a true story,' and then he's gonna
yep,
disappear." Yeah.
yep,
Ray
yep.
really appreciates your viewpoint on this.
Thanks, Faye. I appreciate your face.
Yeah.
No, it was kind of sad. It was kind of sad. You know what they need to do? They need to take this whole concept and fucking give it Taika Waititi because he's the only person doing any like. There's some independent people doing indigenous work right now, but if they wanted to give it to a big name and put it out underneath a big studio, Taika Waititi is the guy right now who is doing that series called Reservation Dogs. Taika Waititi is an indigenous person too, but he's indigenous from New Zealand. But he has been doing a lot of work where he's like doing real representations of a real indigenous people, and I would love to see the story, any story of any of the indigenous myths. There's lots and lots of them, and many of them are pants shittingly scary. Give it to Taika Waititi. See what he can do with it, because that was just that it was just a formulaic budget horror movie.
Mm.
That's it.
Well, oh, that's disappointing to hear.
It really is. It really is. It's really quite
Uh,
disappointing.
he
I was
was,
mad about it.
yeah. We were just talking about hard drugs a minute ago, and did you do a spit take when I said that?
Go on.
Here's another story that you found involving hard drugs.
All right.
I love this
No,
headline.
no
I
matter
love.
where you think this is going, you guys, you're wrong. It's totally going a different
Here's
direction.
the headline from the Huff Post. It says, "Court rules Pablo Escobar's cocaine hippos are legally people." More than 80 hippos in Colombia are the first non-human creatures to be legally considered people by a
Right.
U.S. court.
Which is actually a huge deal. That's actually a huge deal. There are other countries who have recognized uh, non-human animals as individuals, as persons with their own right. India, famously, like 4 years ago, recognized dolphins as intelligent, sentient creatures with their own right, which is why there are no longer any type of SeaWorld type creatures that exist in India. But America has never done that before. And I think it's funny because we didn't even do it for animals in America. We decided we got to decide what animals were people in a whole other fucking country. We were like, our stuff, these are just like essentially hot dogs with feet. But in Colombia, those cocaine hippos, those are people. They get their own social, they get their own lawyer. They have their own lawyer, which I think is great.
I I don't understand what they mean by cocaine hippos. I mean, are they saying that these are hippos that were born from cocaine money because that's what funded them in
Yes.
the first place? Or are they
Okay.
saying that they are because there's so much cocaine that they're high on cocaine? Which, by
Okay.
the way, hippos are like one of the most dangerous animals
Yeah.
on the planet, and they
Yeah.
definitely do
Don't
not
eat
need to be.
cocaine.
Yeah.
No, so okay, if you don't know this, you guys, Pablo Escobar is a bad man. But you had to admire his style. Honestly, he sold more drugs than the CIA,
Yeah,
and he was very rich, and he
yeah,
lived in Colombia because
yeah.
that's where drugs come from. And he had lots of money and pretty much did what he wanted. It was not legal to have a hippopotamus in Colombia at the time, but who is going to go to Pablo Escobar and be like,
Right.
Paulie, hippos? You don't think so. Absolutely not. He'd have killed you to
No,
death.
because yeah, and he also like paid off a large part of the Colombian police department.
Oh, yeah, for
Like they were
sure.
like, "Hey, this is illegal," and he was like, "Here, have a huge pile of cash.
Yeah,
Now, what do you say?" And they're like, "All right,
right.
goodbye."
Yeah, no, pretty
Yeah,
much. It was like, take this money or I'll kill you to death. And they would
yeah,
be like, money, thanks, bye.
yeah.
So he had a menagerie. He had a huge menagerie of animals at his giant, ridiculous, over the top Las Vegas style complex deep in the Colombian jungle. One of the things that he had was hippopotamus. Now, after he got arrested in 1993, well, he was arrested before that, but after he was like, they took him away.
Killed. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
he was murdered in 1993. All these animals they just set them loose, like they just set them loose into the jungle, which I mean, not smart, I guess. Most of them died because they're wild animals. Unfortunately, hippopotami, the place where they mostly live, which is like in the Amazon, very similar to Colombia. It's actually like pretty much just like that. So the hippos were like, sweet, love this forever. There was only 4 and now there's 80. And
Hmm.
as you said, hippopotami are super scary animals. Hippopotami kill more people in 1 year than any other animal except for
Even
the
sharks. Yeah.
mosquito. No, not even
Wow.
sharks. They kill more people than sharks. They kill more people than sharks. They kill more people than lions. The only animal that kills more people than hippopotami is the mosquito because they spread malaria and other things. Hippopotamuses are bad motherfuckers. Also, they don't even eat you. Hippopotamus will kill you just because you suck. Wrong place, wrong time, hippopotamus. Snap. And so the people of Colombia were like, well, this is bogus. We should do something about all these hippos because they're also destroying their farms. The hippos will
Hmm.
roll in and just eat everything, just root it all up, just fuck everything up all up one side and down the other. And then people of Colombia were like, could we do something about the
Yeah.
cocaine hippos? So they were gonna kill them. The animal rights activists were like, absolutely fucking not. You cannot just up and kill these hippos. It's not their fault that they're here, for starters. It's not their idea. Secondly, they're actually doing great things for the ecosystem because so many like big like all the land animals in this area are dead because of human interference, which I'm sure that the ecosystem being set right was of great comfort to people who were like literally afraid of being killed by a hippopotamus.
Hmm.
But also, like, it would be a way kinder if you just gave them birth control instead, sterilized them. And there was a big disagreement. Like in Colombia, it was already, you could already advocate for an animal and be like, you can't do that to animals because animals as a whole have rights. Like as a whole, you can't be mean to animals. Don't be a dick to animals. But they don't have rights as people for like, we get to decide what we're going to do with them because they're animals and we're humans. End of story. And so these lawyers actually appealed to the courts in the United States to be like, can you do something about this? And there's some kind of weird loophole that made it so the courts in Idaho, which I don't know if you know this, way far away from Colombia, South America. Also, I don't think
Not
there's any hippos there. That's
right.
weird.
I was gonna say not a lot of hippos in Idaho.
No, right. But they wanted a couple of scientists from Idaho to come down there and testify on behalf of the hippopotamuses, hippopotam,
Hippopoto population.
hippopotami. Yeah. So the only way that that works, people can't testify on your behalf unless you're a person, I guess.
Hmm.
So at first I thought they meant the hippos were gonna like be in the courtroom wearing like very large
Suits. Yeah.
suits.
Yeah.
Which I loved, but that's not what happened at all. So Yeah, a hippopotamus is people. The bigger question now is what that means for the like for America, because America has officially decided that Pablo Escobar's hippos are people. But then the question is, what other animals are people? This is a big question because of that movie Blackfish. You remember that movie Blackfish that
Oh
came out?
yeah, yeah,
It was all about SeaWorld and orcas and
yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah. That was
Yeah,
fucked.
yeah, super. It was super duper dark. Not a feel good film for the whole family. Super depressing. But it's because dolphins and orcas and whales are demonstrative. They're like they're they're smart. There are some people who think they're smarter than we are. That's what the hippos and I. Who are you, Facebook user, and how dare you say something so controversial yet so true? um, if there are hippos in Idaho, that is news to me. Um, yeah, so that yeah, it could have a bunch of implications because like tomorrow you could have somebody knocking on your door being like, "Your dog is a person. You have to you have to pay your cat for their labor." I don't know. It could mean a lot of. It's a weird, wacky world. I wouldn't be surprised if they started making our cats and gerbils pay rent or something now because Pablo Escobar's fucking hippos are people, and so I don't know. I don't know what it means, but it's weird. Is
It's
it
Shane.
Shane?
They took his identity away.
Shane,
It's
why?
me. Is this a blank Facebook user now?
Shane. Shane, knock twice if you can hear us, Shane. You're
Maybe he
in the
got
in,
Zucks onto him.
I think he's in the underground or the what do they call that? The that from
The
yeah. Shane, are you okay, buddy? Can you feel your toes? Wiggle your toes, Shane. Shit.
I don't know why this popped in my head, by the way, but did you know Trump, his social media network, Truth Social is what it's called.
Oh my God.
He's getting ready to
Okay.
drop it.
I love this thing we're doing now where we're naming things after the exact opposite of the thing that they are. I think that's cute. And that's so Dadaist of us. I love it. Fuck that guy. What does he even do? Why is he not just
It's
melted into a pile of Velveeta, for Christ's sake? They said he was going to run again in 2024. Did you hear that shit? Like it's a whole, like a
like
real
it's
thing.
official.
Yeah, like a thing, allegedly. I didn't investigate. I couldn't bring myself to do it.
Damn.
I know.
So here's another animal story that you sent me, and I love this.
All
Um,
right.
here in Milwaukee, I love this headline title too. I don't know. The title is just "Send in the Goats," and it's from Urban Milwaukee, which is a website here. And so Supervisor Jason Haas is introducing a resolution before the county board's Parks, Energy, and Environment Committee seeking to employ goats for landscaping purposes around the county.
Yes.
They can eat up some of those invasive species of plants.
Mhm.
And Haas says the goats can be deployed in herds to eat up overgrown vegetation, invasive species like buckthorn and honeysuckle. And the supervisor is proposing that the county contract with a third party, a quotes goat vendor, to deploy and manage the goats.
I love the idea of deploying the goats. Deploy the goats. Red leader, red leader. Um, well, you might have to pay those goats individually now because they're people.
Right.
Could be, could
Exactly.
be. Yeah, no, that's really cool though, because like that's very environmentally friendly. Like you don't use herbicides then. You don't have to bring big machinery out that's gonna tear up the ground and, you know, put stuff in the air you don't want. That's great stuff. I love that. Plus, I'm pretty sure I don't know if you guys know this, but there's a really bad invasive plant out there right now. I think it's called cow slip. If you touch it, it causes your skin to break out in giant bulbous blisters. And if you put it in
Ew.
your eyes, it'll blind you. Yeah, it'll give you third degree chemical burns, and it's everywhere. Like you can just walk through a city park and see it, and it's bad. It'll hurt you a lot. And I'm pretty sure part of the whole thing is that you don't have to deal with humans handling that stuff if you put the goats out, because the goats maybe could eat it, because goats can eat fucking anything. A goat can eat a Firestone tire. That is true. So I don't know. Seems like nothing but upside to me. Plus, there'll be goats everywhere. We love goats.
Yeah, I kind of feel that they're a little dangerous, so too. I mean,
Goats?
yeah, I've seen The
Did you have an
Witch,
ex? Dude, that's the
Black
best
Phillip.
part.
Uh, and in cartoons, they're always headbutting people, and you know,
T, that's not a bug, it's a feature. That's fucking awesome. What if we could train them to eat all the invasive plants and also like maybe the police force could use them, right? Like maybe like it seems safer to have a goat headbutt somebody than to have
yeah,
a dog bite them, right?
right.
How's
They could
how's
bust through the door, and
yes, thank you, exactly. I feel like if you were okay though, like if you robbed a gas station or something and the cops showed up
it's like goat.
and
Yeah,
right, you just got run down by a goat, how stupid would you feel? You'd lose a lot of cred on that one for sure. Yeah, I love it. I love the goats. Plus it'll like the world is so weird right now. I feel like it would do so much for like the fucking Salvador Dali atmosphere of the whole last 2 years if I walked out and saw like a bunch of goats in little city worker vests, the little reflective guys.
yeah, yeah.
I want that. I want it. Bring the goats. Deploy the goats.
I saw some goats today because me and Alicia, um, along with Steven and Chris, were
Oh yeah.
working on this short documentary about Kenosha area horror hosts.
I'm so excited about it.
So today was our second day of shooting
Yeah.
for this project, and we went to go visit Dr. Destruction. Dr. Destruction has a show. You can see it on Kenosha Community Media as well as online. It's called Crimson Theater, in which he introduces these old horror movies, and he's been doing this show for 20 years now.
Whoa.
And for even longer than that, he has his own haunted house, which is on the Jerry Smith Pumpkin Farm in Kenosha. And it was a wonderful day to visit today. So you pay to get into his haunted house, and then you walk through this uh, path in the cornfield for a little while, and then all of a sudden there's this rickety looking haunted house, and you're like, huh, okay. And it looks kind of small when you first see it, but you go through this house, and then it like winds and winds and winds. You go through 3 different school buses that have
Whoa.
been converted into haunted rooms. And Dr. D's got some haunters that he employs, and
Sure.
they jump out of nowhere and scare you. And
I love it.
uh but the whole pumpkin farm, I mean, it's just so classic. It's got hay rides. There's a petting zoo that has goats and
Aw,
llamas. So
haunted llama.
yeah, no, Alicia was really enjoying that. She got some good footage,
Oh, I'm glad.
panning over all the goats and llamas. And they sell pumpkins, of course, and all sorts of produce and hot drinks. And they have all of these. That's my favorite part. There's like a big display, and it's different famous characters like Scooby Doo and the gang, or the stars of what's that Disney movie, Frozen, right? But they all have
Okay.
pumpkins for heads.
Oh,
Their
sweet.
faces are painted on pumpkins, and then they have these
Okay.
pumpkin heads.
Sweet.
So yeah, it was a really nice Halloween experience hanging out on the pumpkin farm today.
I love
And
that.
and
That's so great.
Alicia, maybe she won't want me saying this, but she was a little bit scared going into the haunted manor.
Well, sure, you should be. It's a
Because they
haunted
jump
manor.
out, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was great because we went through and we got some footage of, you know, the scary stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's going to look really good on film.
Oh,
And
that's awesome.
Steven was there. He's got one of those cool little drones. So he got up in the
Oh,
air and got some drone shots of the pumpkin farm.
sweet.
Yeah,
That's so cool. I love
yeah,
that.
yeah, good stuff.
That's so wholesome of you, T. This is like a really wholesome, like you had some cider and you took the kids to the pumpkin farm. I
Right,
love that. I love it.
right. Dr. Destruction, very interesting character. Our
Oh
one
yeah.
problem with the shoot was we would, film an interview with him. And then when the camera was off, he'd tell us another awesome story. And we're like, oh man, I wish we would have gotten that on film. Like
Oh,
he ran for mayor of Kenosha one time in 2003, 2004. And he actually collected enough signatures that he was on the ballot. Dr. Destruction.
as Dr. Destruction.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my God. Does he still have any of his campaign stuff? Because
I hope so. Yeah.
I would put that sign in my yard and just keep it there forever. Fuck. Oh, please ask him the next time you talk to him, because I'm in like Flynn. I would have run that campaign like a motherfucker. I'd have
Well,
been so good.
I'm gonna suggest to him that he run for mayor again. We'll get him elected
Yeah,
this time, and
100%. Listen to me,
Kenosha
Dr.
will be
Destruction.
Kenosha will be the first city to have a horror host as mayor.
Kenosha doesn't have fuck all else going on for it anyway. But let's put this place on the map, Dr. Destruction. I'm with you. Shit. Yeah, it could be Halloween Town. Kenosha
Right.
could be Halloween Town.
Yeah.
Ugh, you guys, what
Yes.
else do you have? You got like one old A&W root beer or something? Like,
They can
lame.
rebuild Kenosha in the haunted manor image there.
That would be so
But
cool and fun. I'm super sad that he didn't make it. I hope that he runs again. Dr. Destruction, I'm offering my services to you. As a campaign manager, I would be so amazing at this. I would win all the votes for you. Oh, I'm so glad that you did that. And think if he did
yeah.
become the mayor, like your documentary would be so important. Like
Yes.
it might end up in like the Ronald Reagan Library or something.
The Dr. Destruction library. It could happen.
That's so cute. Oh, I hope it does.
Yeah, so it was super fun to hang out with him and be on the pumpkin farm, and we got some really great footage. So we're excited.
I love it.
We're gonna do a couple more interviews, and then there's gonna be a lot of editing and stuff over the winter. So
Yeah. You're just doing everything, bud. You got this documentary going on. You got another documentary going on. It's Halloween. Like it is just it's the season of tea. It's what it is, really. It's tea time.
October is usually pretty busy for me, regardless. But this October was a little extra busy. So
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
almost made it through. A few more days here, and then things are going to be a little bit more chill for me. So
Good.
yeah,
I'm glad to hear that, T. You could use some downtime.
yeah.
You really could. What are you doing for Halloween? What are you gonna do?
I don't know. It's funny. I'm doing ghost tours for American Ghost Walks on Friday and Saturday.
Oh, nice.
And on Sunday, I don't have a tour, but we're actually going to do a short interview for the Horror Host documentary. We're going to talk to Chris House, who is one of the organizers of the Twisted Dreams Film Festival here
Ooh,
in Milwaukee. And he's
nice.
also Dr. Destruction's director of his show. So he's kind of a local horror expert. He does this horror film fest, and
Yeah.
he's helping us out in the production of this documentary as well.
See, now
But
that's the kind of stuff that we should have tickets to.
yeah,
I'm thinking because like we could give some pretty good feedback and it would be local. And Wisconsin horror is awesome because it's got that weird Black River Falls, like bizarro German winter forever, too much cheese kind of. I don't know. It's different. That's what I'm talking about. That sounds great.
Yeah.
When does that happen? That film festival?
It's happening in March.
Okay.
I am pretty sure.
Awesome.
And the reason, so on Sunday, on Halloween, the Twisted Dreams Film Festival is sponsoring a locally made horror film called I Dream of Psychopomp
Yes. Okay.
at the
Sexy.
Avalon Theater.
Oh,
Yeah, so we're gonna go in there and we're gonna interview Chris in the Avalon before the movie screening.
love
And
that.
then I think if nothing else comes up, maybe I'll just hang out and watch the movie,
Yeah, that sounds
you know?
awesome.
Yeah.
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 Also, the Avalon is haunted, so that is on brand.
Ooh, yeah, okay.
Just
Uh
saying.
yeah, yeah. Cool. I can't
Yeah.
think, by Sunday I'm gonna be kind of tired, I think. So
Yeah.
just chilling out watching a movie
Mm,
sounds pretty good.
it sounds pretty nice. I mean, I've got that virgin sacrifice or whatever, but otherwise, I'm pretty
I
much
was gonna
free.
ask, what are you doing for Halloween?
Saturday, I'm doing at 11 o'clock the Talking Weird podcast,
Oh, okay, sure.
which will be fun with Jen and Dean.
Yeah.
And we're just going to be talking about spooky stuff and things, pretty much how that works. It's always a fun time. I love those kids.
Yeah.
And then Sunday, I don't know. I might do some witchy shit. We'll see what happens. I might just like take a deep breath and chill out and
Yeah.
be glad that we made it through yet another spooky season. That might be sufficient to meet my needs. We'll see what goes on. I have to start planning for that witches fair that is happening at the end of November.
Oh,
So
okay.
that'll be cute too. But yeah, I don't know. You guys can drop me a DM and wish me a happy Halloween. For the low price of $20 American, I'll be happy to tell you a ghost story. Send you off to Halloween dreams.
Cool. Yeah. If anyone local is interested, American Ghost Walks, I'm doing tours for them Friday, Saturday. I think there's still room on those tours, but they do sell out
Yeah,
around Halloween because that's when everyone really wants to do the tours. So,
it's the
yeah.
spooky season.
Okay, cool. Well, I think that's a good place to leave it. And of course, we wish everyone listening a happy Halloween.
Happy
And,
Halloween, everybody.
and we'll be back with some post Halloween reporting next week.
Yep.
All right.
Bye,
Bye,
everybody.
everyone.